Hi, my name is Taj Mohammed. I'm a senior support escalation engineer at Microsoft. I work with System Center 2012 Configuration Manager team. And welcome back to our part two of the presentation on managing workgroup clients using System Center 2012 Configuration Manager. If you have not already checked my part one on managing workgroup clients, I would definitely recommend you to go through that presentation first because that covers some of the important aspects of workgroup client management. So this presentation is going to focus mainly on the HTTPS communication. Okay, the objective of this presentation is understand what are the requirements to enable HTTPS, creating custom certificate template for workgroup clients. How do we create a certificate template which is required for workgroup clients? And then requesting and exporting the client certificate, that's the certificate for workgroup, from a domain join client. So which means we will request the certificate on a domain join client and then export it and then take it to the workgroup client. And then we'll import this same cert on the workgroup client. So once the import completes, then we can go ahead and install the client. So that's what we're going to cover here. So HTTPS requirements use public key infrastructure certificates for client communications with site systems that run IIS, which means it could be a management point, it could be a distribution point or a software update point. All the site systems utilize IIS, and we need to have web server certificate placed on IIS for HTTPS communication. And every client which is talking to this HTTPS site system must have a client authentication certificate. So under the site property, you have an option. The default option is HTTP or HTTPS, but you can change that to HTTPS only, and that will make compulsory for every site system to use HTTPS, or you need to enable HTTPS on each and every site system. And then once that is set up, we'll see that, and we'll also have a demo of each. Install clients. So when you're installing the client, you need to use this use PKI cert installation property when you run CCM setup on a workgroup machine. We'll see that, and there are few more switches, few more properties which you need to add with the use PKI cert. And then use a certificate revocation list. Yes, if the CRL, which is published by default to a LDAP location, and LDAP is a protocol used to access that CRL location, which will not be accessible for the workgroup clients, and they will definitely get into an issue with the default CRL publishing. So either you need to make sure that the CRL is published to an alternate location which workgroup client can access, or you need to disable the CRL check. Okay, the site system settings. The default setting is HTTPS or HTTP, and that can be changed to HTTPS. Client computer communication is about securing endpoints. The two endpoints in this case are the client and the site system roles the client talks to. The reason for enabling a site system for HTTPS communication is because we want to secure the communication between the client and server or the site system. A client can communicate by using either the HTTP or HTTPS protocol. HTTPS requires the client and site system roles to be configured with valid PKI certificates for mutual authentication. Intelligent client behavior. This enables the client to select the most secure communication option available, which means if the client is configured with a valid PKI certificate and there are HTTPS site system roles available, the client uses HTTPS for communication. If the client is configured with a valid PKI certificate and there are no HTTPS site system roles available, and the client is configured to use HTTP, the client uses HTTP to communicate with site system roles. So if you look at the properties of the site where we have this option, So this is the default properties, default options. HTTPS or HTTP is the default option, and you have use PKI client certificate option checked, which means the clients can use PKI certificate if they have, and they can talk to HTTPS site system roles. And check clients check the certificate revocation list for site system is unchecked. If you enable this option, what happens is the clients will be able to check the CRL, download the CRL from the CRL distribution point and verify if a certificate is part of the CRL list. So that check can be disabled, can be enabled. And for the workgroup clients, if they cannot access the CRL distribution points, it's better that we uncheck that. But the secure way is you enable CRL distribution points which are accessible for the workgroup clients. But if you think that the clients will not be able to access the CRL distribution points, then you have to keep it disabled the way it is shown here. And trusted root certification authorities, you need to set the root CA certificate here. But that should get set automatically if the site system role is installed on the same server, that's site server. If it is not, you can do it manually, and I'll show you that in the demo. And if you look at the management point, so this is the property of the management point. HTTPS is selected, and you need to select it manually. With this setting here, you have to select HTTPS manually, and then what happens when you select this, the management point gets reinstalled with HTTPS properties, which means the virtual directories and IIS gets enabled for HTTPS and all that. Certificate on a workgroup client. Each workgroup client needs a unique certificate, and the certificate purpose will be client authentication. And you can generate client authentication certificate using a workstation authentication template. And the client computers, the workgroup client computers must have a unique value in the subject name field or in the subject alternative name field. That will be either the short name of the computer, short name of the client, or the FQDN in case the workgroup clients are configured to use the FQDNs or the DNS suffixes. Another important point to be noted here is the hash algorithm. If hash algorithm is not SHA-1 or SHA-2, then it will not work, along with the supported key length, which is 2048 bits. So we have seen issues if the customers are using SHA-256 hash algorithm, that we have seen that that doesn't work. Custom secure certificate template. So when you're customizing the workstation authentication template, you need to copy it and you can customize it. And these are some of the customizations which you're seeing on the screen. One is supplying the request option selected. That's not selected by default. We want to select that because when we request the certificate, we're going to supply the name of the computer, name of the workstation, name of the workgroup client. And the second screenshot shows you that allow private key to be exported. So when we export the certificate, we are going to export the cert with the private key. Without a private key, the cert will not have any value, and we cannot use the cert without private key for authentication from the workgroup client. And as far as who can request the certificate, you can add the group of users, and I just gave the enroll permission to the authenticated users, but you can add your own user group, and you can give them the enroll permission. So that group of user will be able to request the certificate using this template. And in our case, in this lab, which I'm going to show you, where we will be doing that from a domain join machine. So the user will be connecting to the CA and requesting the cert. So that's going to be a domain join. Okay, so installing clients to use HTTPS site systems. Each workgroup client requires a unique client authentication certificate issued to computer. We already mentioned that in the previous slide. How to provision certificate on workgroup computers is individual's decision. And the reason why we are saying that is because provisioning certificates is external to configuration manager. So in the demo, we're going to do it in a manual way, you will request the certificate from a domain join machine, export it from there, and take it to the workgroup client and import it there. So it really is a decision of an individual that how they want to provision the certificate on workgroup clients. If they have like 200 workgroup clients, and they might say, okay, so am I going to do that manually, or is there a standard, or is there an automated method? Since these are workgroup clients, that's really a challenge, which we don't see in domains scenario, that you can use group policy for for the certificate provisioning purposes. So that will not work here. So you need to come up with some automated method. But as far as this demo is concerned, I'll just show you how you can do it using a manual method. And once you have the certificate on the client, then the next thing is you can go ahead and install the client. And then when you're installing, you have this installation properties. Use PKI cert, which is required, that you're saying that I have a PKI certificate set up on the client, and use that certificate for client communication. And then you have no CRL check option. That's because this is a workgroup client, and the default CRL distribution points, they will not be accessible. That's an LDAP distribution, CRL distribution point. So since that is not accessible, we want to ignore the CRL check here. So that's the reason why the no CRL check option is selected. And then you have SMS site code. That's important. Important because you're doing the site assignment with that. So you're saying that PRA is the site to which this client will be assigned to. And then DNS suffix is very, very important. The reason is the client will query the DNS. As soon as the client is installed, it queries the DNS, and then it will find out the MP capability. And we are not mentioning the MP name here. So it will query DNS, find out if there is a management point under this DNS zone, and what is the port on which the management point is running. In this case, it would be 443. So when it sees 443, then it when it connects to the management point, then it will use HTTPS for communication. It will also use the certificate which is present in the computer's personal store. We'll see that in the demo. But these are the properties, and if you see the properties, the first two properties uses the slash, the forward slash, and the second two doesn't use. The property with forward slash is a CCM setup installation property, and the properties without forward slash are client MSI properties. So the way you need to use these properties, the recommended way is use the CCM setup properties first in the command line, and the client MSI properties at the end. That's the recommendation. So in the demo, we are going to see customizing the template for workgroup clients, and then requesting the certificate using that template, and exporting the certificate, taking it to the workgroup client, importing it there, and then installing Configuration Manager client. And after the installation, we will verify if the installation was successful and if the client is successfully communicating with the management point or not. So there are a couple of logs which we can check and make sure that the client is communicating successfully. And then we'll also see on the server if it shows up in the Configuration Manager console. Okay, so this is my CA server. Let's go to Certification Authority. And the way my CA is set up here is I have a subordinate CA. This is my issuing certification authority, and on top of this I have another CA which is the root of this CA. So to create a template for workgroup clients, go to the certificate templates, right click and select manage. And then you have this workstation template, workstation authentication template, which we want to customize. So right click and select duplicate. So you need to select Windows Server 2003 Enterprise as a template standard here. 2008 is not supported by Configuration Manager, so make sure that you're not selecting 2008. So name this template Workgroup Clients Demo, since I already have template set up there for group_clients. So I'll name Workgroup Clients Demo, go to request handling. As we said, we want to select this option, subject name, supply in the request. So it's going to give you this warning. So those are the three changes you need to do. I'm sorry, the third change would be, of course, give the permission to authenticated users or any other group. You can add and give the enroll permission. So these are the three changes. One is the permission, and the other is the request handling tab where you have allow private key to be exported and the subject name. And once you're done, you will see the template listed here. So what you need to do is close this, right click and select the certificate template to issue, and select the workgroup clients demo template. So this becomes, by doing this becomes available now for someone to request a certificate against this template. Okay, so I'm on the client CM12Win7. That's my workgroup client. Let's quickly verify that this is a workgroup client. Actually, yes, it's in workgroup, and we need to get that certificate here. So that's on my CM12 CAS. That's the server where we just exported that cert. So this is the PFX file. So I'll just copy it to the documents here. And once it's copied, then you can open new MMC, add certificates, snap in, select computer account. We need to place the certificate in the personal store of computer, not the user. So personal store doesn't have any certificates, so let's import the cert. Browse. Okay, so PFX it is. So let's select this. Okay. The password. Yeah, place it in the personal store. Import it successfully. Okay, so why do we have three certificates here? Because we have exported the chain of the issuing CA and the root CA, I mean the chain of the certification authority. So what is the chain? And an important thing here, and we have seen several issues with this. So see this cross here. What is it saying? The certificate cannot be verified up to a trusted certification authority, which means the certification authority issued the certification authority which issued the certificate is not trusted by this workgroup client. And who issued the certificate? It's issued by Configuration Manager sub CA. We have seen that. And this subordinate is a subordinate of Configuration Manager CA. So this root is not trusted. So what we'll do is, to make this Configuration Manager CA trusted, we'll copy this, or I can just move this like this to the trusted root certification authority list. So that is moved. So is this okay now? Yeah, it's definitely okay. So there was a cross there and that's gone. And what will we do with this? We can just move this to the intermediate certification authority list here. So they are moved. This is moved here, and this is moved here. So make sure when you open this, when you open the certificate like this, you don't see any cross here, and you have a private key. That's very, very important. If these two things are, so one of them is missing, like there's a cross, or you don't have this private key mentioned here, this certificate will just not work. So you need to fix that first. Just follow the steps what we have just done. Okay, so we have a certificate in place. So what next? So we want to install the client. All right, so I have this client folder copied from the site server. So I'll just show you if you haven't seen my previous presentation. So this is a client folder which is copied to this C drive. So I'm running this, I've copied that locally, running this setup from there. CCM setup.exe, and the properties we want to use PKI cert, and then no CRL check, and SMS site code equal to PRI, and then use DNS suffix equal to cm.com. Alright, so I ran that command. I'm going to go to the CCM setup log, verify what's going on there. So this is the log which shows that the installation has started. We want to wait for the installation to complete, and then we'll verify a few things. Okay, so while the installation is going on, so we want to verify a few things on this, on the site itself, on the configuration manager site. So the client is not listed here, so we'll see once it gets installed, it should report, and we should see that client showing up in the console. Okay, so the properties, the site, how is it set up? I just want to show you how it is set up so that you can get an idea. So this is set up for HTTPS or HTTP, that's the default setting, and clients check for revocation, that's not checked, and this option is selected. So these are basically the default options. Root CS specified, right? So this is the certificate of the certificate authority which is mentioned here, and as I said, it should get added automatically if you have the site system running on the same box, and if it doesn't, then you need to add it manually. And to add that manually, what you can do is you can just export. This is what you can do from any domain join machine. You can go to certificate snap-in, trusted root. So this is my configuration manager CA. I'll just export that. DER is the standard, so I'll just name it as root CA cert. So just export like that, and then once you have that, then you can go to set root CA option here, and you can just add it here from here. Sets in C. Okay, so root is there, intermediate or exporter. You just need root CSZ is the one which we just exported. Just add it and it's already there. So that's the way you're going to add if you don't see the root CS certificate listed here. Um, that is how you're going to export and add that. So this is one thing which I wanted to show. And the next thing is the site system roles. So when you have that HTTP or HTTPS option, then you have an option to individually enable these site system roles for HTTPS the way I did here. If you see, like, this management point is enabled for HTTPS communication, and if you look at the distribution point, maybe it's still running on HTTP. So that's the benefit you get when you have HTTP or HTTPS option selected. And if you make it HTTPS only, then it all the site systems running on the site automatically gets changed to HTTPS option. And one thing which I definitely want you to show you here while we're discussing this is when you have HTTPS management point installed and running, and you want to make sure that the management point is whether the management point is functioning fine using HTTPS. What you can do is you can check this MP control log. So where is it? It's the latest one. All right. So what we are interested in this log is this entry here, right? So it's kind of a self test which it is performing against the management point, and it does every 5 minutes. And the test is being done against 443 port, and we see status code 200. That's successful. So this is one check you can do on the management point side. Make sure that you're running on 443 and the status code is 200. If it's not, then you need to look at that and see what is not set up right and why you're getting that error. So that is on the server side. Let's go back to the client. Okay, coming back to the client, I want to show you one thing real quick here. So when I ran the installation again, correcting the DNS suffix property name, when we ran it second time, there was again a typo in the name itself, the cm.com. Instead of C, it was X. So it ran into the problem again. So the installation was run again, and finally it completed. And we can verify the logs real quick here. And the logs we want to check, the first log is the location services log. The reason why it's important is it will tell us that the DNS suffix property is working or not. And we can see that here. So we should see an entry somewhere here which should say us that from where it's retrieving that management point information. Retrieving local MPs from DNS and attempting to retrieve, and then I want to see a very clear entry. Enable, okay, AD membership. Okay, so this is the entry I was looking at. Found DNS record of cm12pri.cm.com with a port number, and HTTPS is Y, which means HTTPS is enabled on that site system. So if you want to look at the DNS itself, so this is the DNS server which has the SRV record, and we can see that same information here, 443 and cm12pri.cm.com. So we know this is the record from where the information is being retrieved. So this tells us the importance of that DNS suffix, using the proper DNS suffix. So this is one important log, location services. So the client knows about the management point for this site, and it also knows the capability of the management point, that is HTTP or HTTPS. So that's one piece of information which is very important. And then you have client ID manager startup log, which tells you about the client registration. We want to make sure we don't get into any issues there in that log. In looking at this log, so these are the tasks which it runs. So if you're seeing this entry here, client is registered, then very good. the client got registered, and we should be able to see the record in the console when we open the console on the server. So this is one important log. And while you're troubleshooting, if you want to get more information, if something is not working, and if you want to gather more information or understand why something or why the client is not functioning as expected, CCM messaging is the log which actually tells you what happened when the client tried to communicate with the management point, when it is trying to send some data to the management point. So in this log, we can actually see the client selects that certificate from the personal store issued to CM12Win7. That's the subject name of the certificate. Of course, it's the name of the computer as well. So it says that it retrieves a PKI certificate from the store, which is issued to CM12Win7. And we're not seeing any errors here. And if you get into issues, what kind of issues you might get into, and what kind of errors we might see. And as an example, what I did for this demo is I kept a copy of CCM Messaging Log with some errors here. So what happened in this case, it has picked up the certificate, I guess. I show you those entries if they are still present, if they're present. Okay, so it still had the certificates for CM12Win7, but the problem then was the revocation check was enabled on the site properties. So the site properties, on the site properties, you have that. Let me show you that option so that it makes more clear. So since we are in the console, we can see that the machine being listed here, and then shows as active and approved. I'll come back to that, but I really quickly want to show you this. So if this option is selected, clients check this certificate revocation list for site systems, and if you try to install the client, then we might get into this issue. So how can we say that it's a revocation problem? You should be able to search for this error, and that error will point you to the revocation. And I can say, looking at this, REV should be revocation failed, which means the revocation check failed. It was not able to communicate or get the CRL list, and that is published on a CRL distribution point, which basically means the client was not able to connect to the CRL distribution point where the CRL is published, download that, and verify if the certificate is part of that list or not. So that's what it is trying to say. So this is one kind of error we can get into, and there could be other issues like the common name of the certificate doesn't match with the name of the machine itself. The name of the machine is just using NetBIOS name, and you're using FQDN on the certificate. That could be one issue, and the same thing applies to the server side as well. And if there are any server side issues, then definitely the MP control log will help you on the server to know if the MP is functioning properly or not. But these are a few things, and let's go back to the console. I close this, and we already saw the machine listed there. I want to go back. So machine shows the workgroup client shows as yes, and the site code with active status and approved status is approved. All right, this brings me into the presentation. Thank you for watching.